Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is the one and many, and in today's video we are going to be going through a Blitz crash guide created by myself with a little bit of support from ChungusBoy54 in game for the screenshots provided for certain sections of this video. Now, this video is mainly targeted for newer players that want to get started or have already gotten started and don't know what to do in the game to progress better or faster or just get better at the game in general. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today in this video. This video is going to have a lot of information for new players and not so much for older players, but you can still learn something or refresh your memory on certain aspects of the game. So we are going to be taking a look at classes. We're going to be taking a look at what each class does, what the best line for each class is as a newbie, and premium tanks. We're going to be taking a look at premium tanks, how to progress through the game's economy, and a few good tips on certain mechanics of the game, like side creeping, angling, and hold down. So, without further ado, let's get right into this guide. The World of Tanks Blitz game has 4 classes, like most of other World of Tanks games. There's 4 main classes: lights, mediums, heavies, and tank destroyers. Lights are usually the best spotting class and mobility class. That's what they're known for. Most of them have no armor, with certain exceptions. They still don't technically have armor, but something like the Sheridan with its boxy design and a lot of spaced armor will bounce you some shells every now and then. They have decent guns most of the time with good-ish DPM. Mediums usually have more DPM, but they're pretty accurate because they're meant to be shooting at long range, especially because their spotting and their camouflage is great. They're meant for long range engagements. They have low alpha, usually 300 to 350, with the exception being the Sheridan with a 560 alpha damage. Mediums are the jack of all trades, master of none. They're decent at everything, some are great at certain things, but nothing else. Heavies have the highest HP, best armor in the game, bad mobility, and mediocre guns. Most of them, there are some exceptions in every single class, but most of them are premium tanks. Tank destroyers are of different types, either very good armor and decent mobility and gun, or great gun and good mobility with little to no armor. To contrast, maybe I'd put the Jagdpanzer E100 for the good armor and decent mobility and gun. Even though the Jagdpanzer E100 has a great gun and great armor, it's not mobile whatsoever. And on the good gun and good mobility side, I'd put the Gorilla 15. Even though it's not as good as it used to be, it's still a really good tank. Now, what class should you first choose, and which class is best suited for you as a new player? It's down to your personal opinion and what you feel like playing in the game, but my recommendation are always going to be heavy tanks. For example, a good starter line is the 100 we have in the picture off to the right of the screen. It's a German tier X, tier 10 heavy tank with a great line leading up to it, formed of the Tiger 1, Tiger 2, E75, and this beauty right here. Great armor and second highest HP pool in the game. It also has a pretty decent gun, and it'll get the job done for a new player. It's usually called a noob's tank because it is a decent tank, a great tank for new players actually. We're going to also be taking a look at the best tank destroyer, best medium, best light tank, etc. for you if you feel like playing one of those classes instead. Let's look about the stats of the 100. This is all without equipment as far as I'm concerned. Nothing, no equipment, nothing on these tanks. So, 2750 HP, again second or third actually if I think about it to the Mouse and VK72, I'm not sure about that one. 2750. As for the armor, 270, 150, 150 on front, sides, and rear of the turret, 200 millimeters on the hull, 120 on the sides, and 150 on the rear. Do not be fooled by these numbers. The turret is absolutely a monster. It will not get penetrated if you angle it properly, except on the turret ring. That is a weak point. The hull is really good except for that lower plate. Just angle, like we will talk in a little bit of a further section is in this video, and you'll be just fine. View range and concealment are redundant for a heavy tank, so we'll be not talking about them. Damage per minute is 2,214, and not great, but it is a very armored, heavy tank, a super heavy as we like to call it. Very well armored, a lot of hit points, slow, and mediocre gun. I'm sorry, this is the, I did an oopsie here. This is the 460 Alpha gun. So let's take a look at the in-game statistics for this tank with the 640 gun. That's a little bit mistake on my part, but as you can see, there's not really much of a difference in these guns, except the fact that you get 640 Alpha on the AP, 545 on the heat, and 960 on the HE, which is a lot. Other than that, nothing really changes except a little more dispersion and a lot, like 13 less DPM. So nothing really changes. So yeah, the only thing different is the penetration and the alpha damage. Also, we didn't talk about the penetration. 23 extra heat pen, meaning you get 370 heat pen, I think. A lot more HE pen and a little more AP pen. So again, other than penetration and alpha, not much changes, and the penetration doesn't change that much. The biggest difference is the stock gun has APCR and the good gun has heat. As for the maneuverability, 30 in forward, 15 in reverse with an average speed of 22. It is a slow tank. It turns slow, it is slow. Even though it has 1200 horsepower, it weighs 129.69 tons. It's a heavy boy. Base mechanics of the game. What do you need to know to get started? Well, there's mainly 4 mechanics in this game, or 3 more or less. 3 that are covered in this presentation. These are the 3 important ones: angling, side creeping, and hold down. What do these actually mean? Angling is the concept of turning your tank in a certain way that maximizes your armor's thickness and minimizes weak spots. The angle that you take varies from tank to tank. Side scraping is using a building or cover to angle your tank at a very steep angle to guarantee bounces off your side, all while hiding your frontal weak point. Hold down in tanks with good gun depression, only poking your turret from behind cover to shoot. Works best in tanks with 8 to 10 degrees of gun depression with decent turret armor, T125, SDB1, Kronwagen, etc. Let's take a look at angling. In short, angling effectively means that the effective thickness of your armor is at its maximum. As you can see, let's take these red boxes, a red and green one, are your armor plates. If the enemy is shooting straight on your armor plate, let's consider this being around 200 millimeters thick, it will go through if they have 250 millimeters of pen. But if you angle it effectively and they shoot exactly at the corner of your plate, that's where it's at its highest thickness, meaning it will most likely bounce right off. Here are some examples of angling in the E100 that I showed earlier as my recommendation for a good starter tank. This is a form of bad angling to your left where we can frontally pen the turret with heat. This is every tank used for shooting at the enemy tanks in this video is a grille, and let's take a look at the grille right here about its penetration. It has 334 heat pen. I'm not using calibrated shells, but this would basically be just gray. Now, this is an example of good angling. You can still see the turret ring on the 100. As you can see, it's pennable. It probably is pennable with standard as well for tank destroyers, but against mediums and heavies, most will not be able to go through, so this will be impenetrable. This is an example of good angling. Side scraping is advanced angling. Basically, you're angling your side in an extreme angle while hiding your frontal weak points behind cover. As you can see, the green arrows, let's pretend they're enemy tanks. If you're angled like this, they could potentially try and find some of your weak points, maybe try and shoot at your lower plate, while when you're side scraping behind a building, they cannot even see those. So all they see is a very steeply angled side plate. As you can see here, a bad angling example is when your lower plate is shown, the turret ring is exposed, Your track wheel is also exposed to penetration, so you're not angling properly. You want to be as close to the building as possible unless you're peeking out to shoot, and you're aware when you peek out to shoot that you must trade your hit points. Side scraping works best in tanks with thick side armor like the E100, like the Mouse, like the VK90, mainly German super heavies, except the VK72. Do not side scrape in that, please. An example of good side scraping, as you can see, the same position but just a different approach to it, I'd say. Closer to the wall, hiding your front, perfect side scraping position. You cannot be penetrated as an E100 in this position. It's impossible. Hold down is basically what it sounds. You hide your hull, you use your gun depression to poke behind hills and fire shots at enemies which cannot even see your hull, therefore cannot penetrate you. In this example, we're using a Kron. A bad position, even though this might seem obvious that you can't even shoot the enemy in this position. You are overexposing, and in this position, the Kran wants to overexpose over the hill to put a shot into me. And before he gets the chance to pull over the hill, not the hole, sorry, over the hill, I put a shell into his lower plate and I back out of the line of sight. Meaning he doesn't even get to put a shell into me, and he takes a shot for no apparent reason. This is how you want to stay hull down. You want to hide your hull and only show your turret. This is a decent hold down position. This is not a great hold down position because there are a little more advanced tactics to this. This is a great hold down position. As you can see, we're pointing our gun up, and why is that? Well, the Kranwagen has a frontal plate which does not move and the turret which does move. And when you point your gun up, the turret goes down behind the frontal plate and you hide your hatches. Therefore, you cannot be penetrated. With tanks that have hatches, this usually works pointing your gun up and wiggling your turret, therefore not being able to be hit in hatch. Let's take an in-depth look at all the classes though. Enough of the game mechanics. Episode 1, Light Tanks. Light tanks are the eyes of the team, as I've said before. They're meant for experienced players that have good map awareness and know where and when they're supposed to be. Out of all the classes, light tanks are the worst class to start off with. They're meant to keep the enemy team spotted all while dealing damage from afar and not getting spotted themselves because they have no armor and a low hit point pool. A perfect example of such playstyle is a T100LT Russian Tier X. These are the stats of the T100LT. As you can see, no hit points almost. The front of I can't talk, sorry. The front of the turret is 210 millimeters thick, which is decently thick. It's very decent actually. You will get some bounces. The concealment, as you can see, is 50-50. It's a great concealment number. A little curious thing about light tanks is the fact that their concealment while stationary is the same as their movement concealment, meaning they're great for spotting, as I said before. 2,771 DPM, as you can see. A good DPM number is surpassed 3,000 in tier 10. It doesn't surpass 3,000 without equipment and stuff, but it will get there, and it's a decent number. The penetration, as you can see, is not great because this is a light tank. Average damage, as you can see, 310, 260, and 420. The average aim time and dispersion are decent but not great. They're actually pretty good except the dispersion, which you can lower through equipment. No gun depression because it's a Russian tank. Decent mobility, actually really good mobility. What am I talking about? 68 kilometers in forward and 25 in backwards, an average speed of 43. Great power to weight ratio, great turn rates. Overall, a really mobile tank. That's what all light tanks are about. Episode 2, medium tanks. Medium tanks are good at everything and amazing and nothing, with some exceptions. They are the brawlers of the game, fighting heavies and lights alike. Their main purpose is to counter light tanks and flying heavy tanks all at the same time. They have great guns to hold off heavies but lack the penetration to reliably do so. The best medium tank to pick up, in my opinion at least, and play as a beginner is the E50M German Tier X because it has great armor, a good gun, and great mobility. Stats of the monster, as I like to call it, because that's what the legendary camo is called. As you can see, really good frontal armor. You don't want to expose the sides, but if you just hold down frontally or angle very slightly, you will be just fine. The concealment is decent. That's about it for medium tank. DPM 2955, which is really good stock without any equipment on it. The average penetration is also decent, a little bit higher than the light tanks, but still decent. 340 AP average damage, 300 heat, and 450 HE, a lot more than the T100 LT. It's also more accurate than the T100 LT with 8 degrees of gun depression, meaning you can go hold down in this tank. 60 top speed forward, 20 in reverse. Basically almost the same as the T100 LT, though it does not have the same power to weight ratio, so it will accelerate a lot slower. It's a medium tank. It's meant to brawl and be the main force of your team. You need to have a good spread of stats in this tank. A decent gun, decent maneuverability, and decent survivability armor-wise. Episode 3, Tank Destroyers. Tank Destroyers are another noob unfriendly class, as I like to call them, although they can be picked up. They require a lot of skill though, map awareness, and positioning skills to use. They have amazing guns, usually with little to zero armor and decent mobility. Well, most. There are some exceptions. Again, they're usually turretless or have a non-fully traversable turret, meaning they're harder to use than any other class because they can be circled much easier. There's no TD I fully recommend for a beginner, but the best one would be the 268, as it does have a little bit of armor, a great gun, and decent mobility. The stats, as you can see, the frontal armor is not 19.5, 195, but it's angled in such a way that you will get quite a few bounces. The concealment is better than mediums, better than heavies, but not better than lights. The DPM is not great, 2621 for a TD, but the alpha damage is 670, 570, and 1000 on the HE. Dispersion is 0.364 with 5.1 second aiming time. These are decent numbers, in my opinion. Standard tanks to be called good when they have 400 alpha damage-ish. 0.32 dispersion with like a 4.5 second aiming time is what baseline. Now this tank has 670 alpha damage, so we gotta consider that it's a 152mm cannon, meaning obviously it'll have more dispersion. It has 7 degrees of gun depression. The turn limit, 12 to the left, 10 to the right. That's how much your gun turns. Your tank is gonna have to turn with it. 48 the top speed forward and 18 in reverse, with a decent power to weight ratio. It'll get where you want to be, not fast though. You'll eventually be there. Now enough about the tanks. Let's talk about the in-game economy. The in-game economy has 4 main currencies: credits, gold, experience, the blue XP, and free experience, yellow XP, or free XP as it's more oftenly called. Credits are the main currency of the game. Main way to earn them is by playing the game. Higher tiers earn more credits. Premium tanks have an improved credit coefficient. More on that later. Gold is a paid currency but can be earned for free in multiple ways, quite efficiently too. Used for purchasing premium tanks most of the time. Experience is the currency used to unlock Tech Tree tanks. You can earn it by playing Tech Tree tanks, and the currency is stuck to that specific tank. Meaning, for example, you play the E75, the tank prior to the E100, and your XP, the blue one, is only used to unlock modules on the E75 or the E100, nothing else. Free experience is earned in games with any tank, just like the other XP, in a very small amount. Main way of earning it is converting elite XP earned on premium tanks, maxed out tanks, with gold. What does maxed out tank mean? A tank which you have all the modules on, you have the next tank in the line, and you have crew maxed out. There's another type of XP which I didn't mention. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. This certain type of XP, along with where it goes to, it deserves a video of its own. Credits. So, what is the best way of earning credits, you might ask? Well, there's multiple ways to add to your income. Premium time adds 50% more XP and credits per battle. It is earned from events, crates, and outright binding with gold. I only recommend getting it from events. Credit boosters. Usually you can get them from free crates, and events. There are 3 tiers of credit boosters or any other boosters, with an exception gold ones, which only have 1 tier and they give 10 to 20 gold. We'll talk about that later. The gray boosters give 3 to 14,000 credit bonus depending on tier. Win or loss, 3 combines into 1 blue. Blue gives 7,500 to 35,000 credits. Again, 3 combine into 1 purple, not blue, but yeah, you get the point. And purple gives 10,000 to 50,000 credits. Again, depending on win or tier. My tip is overall to keep the quality if you don't have a lot, as it gives the most credits of the most amount of credits over time. Premium tanks have an increased credit coefficient. More on them later, as we'll be having a certain section about premium tanks. Gold is the main currency for new tanks, premiums mainly. It's mainly bought. We will discuss on which bundles are worth buying and which are not. Free ways of obtaining it do exist, and they're quite profitable, though most are for mobile players only. These include gold ads, 10 gold per day, 5 ads a day, 50 per day. That means you can get around maybe 18,000 gold a year, which is a lot of gold. Ad crates, 1 crate per day with 1 ad every 2 hours, 2 ads per crate. You get gold boosters and certificate parts for extra gold from those. Gold boosters give 10 to 20 gold depending on tier and win or loss. Let's talk about experience. Same tips as with the credits apply. Premium time boosters work the same way, but with percentages. Blue quality is the best for most XP, and you can convert it with gold, 25 elite XP, and 1 gold is 25 free XP. A reminder, elite XP is the XP you earn from a maxed out vehicle or premium vehicle. The crew system in World of Tanks Blitz is a funny one. There's also a video entirely on its own, as I said before. All you need to know is that you get crew XP the same way you get the rest playing the game. Crew XP boosters work the same way as regular and free XP boosters. These crew skills improve your tank's characteristics dramatically. We will talk about those in a specific video where I recommend what crew to max out first. The boosters in World of Tanks Blitz go from regular XP, free XP, crew XP, cooldown, and credits. Each of these have 3 tiers, gray, blue, and purple. Usually 3 combine into 1, and then 3 of those quality combine into 1 purple. Cooldown boosters reduce the time it takes for consumables to regen, most useful at its purple tier. What this means is if your speed boost, for example, has a 90-second cooldown, with a purple it'll have a 60-second cooldown, which helps a lot, especially in competitive play. Premium guide time! Let's go! A very important aspect of the game are premium tanks, and bought ones at that. Let's take a slight look at what you want to look for in your first premium tank or another addition to your garage. If you're not a collector and care about price and performance, this is perfect for you. Let's take a look at the stats that you want to look for in a tank. You want to make sure your tank is on subpar. Compare stats using blistars.com, a great website for comparing your tanks, not sponsored by the way, and make sure your choice isn't weaker than a cheaper variant of the same tank or than its tech tree counterpart. Let's take a look at Blistars right here. You just search Blistars compare tanks online and you will find this page right here. And you can add tanks, and for example, let's go down to tier 8, and in store we right now have the where's it? We have the T54E2. And let's compare with its tech tree counterpart, the American, T32. As you can see, better DPM, better penetration, better shell velocity, better aim time, better dispersion, better speed, better traverse, better movement, and higher credit coefficient. Obviously better win rate, meaning this tank is worth buying for a good price tag. That was just an example. You can do this for any tank. The newer the tank is, the more expensive it is, obviously, when we're talking about price. Usually the more expensive it is, the better it is, but not always. Average prices for tier 8s to 10, where I'd expect people to buy premiums in, range from 8,500 to 10,000 for tier 8 stripped. Stripped means just a tank with nothing else. Tier 9, 10,000 to 12,50 stripped. Tier 10, 17,500 to 2,000. These are the prices you should stick to. Do not go over unless you have money to blow or you're sure that the tank is what you want. Example, this is an example of a good deal. Tank, the Chieftain Mark 6. A classic tier 10 heavy tank, good at everything, great gun, 20,000 gold for the tank, the camo, which is usually useless but pretty, not in this case in my opinion, as this camo isn't really good. And equipment, which is around 2.2 to 3 million credits, which you save. This is a good deal. This is a good tier 10, it's a premium tank, you can earn credits really well on it. This is a bad deal, the VK90. It's a great tank, especially for newish players, good armor, great HP, but this bundle goes wrong with the price. This exact bundle is 25,000 gold, usually a decent price for it. Tank sells for 22.50 stripped. Why is it bad? $45, that's why. Let's take a look at how much gold you could get for $45 if you buy it for the first time, meaning you get those X2 bundles which you see in your store at the gold section. So this bundle, if bought for the first time, which I've bought before, the $45 bundle for 17.5k gold, it's X2, meaning it gives 35,000 gold for the same price. The bundle would be 25,000 gold with 10,000 gold left over for another tank. Hence, the VK90 is a bad deal. That's about it for today's video. If you have any more suggestions, that's about for, actually, you know what? That's about it for the presentation. Now, let's take a deeper look into the store. Thank you for watching. We'll be saved for a little bit later. Let's take a look into the store of World of Tanks Blitz and take a deeper look at what a good and bad bundle means. As I said, it's a bad bundle. Do not spend your money on crates, please, even though this is the only crates I'd recommend spending your money on, because this has crates of like almost every single tank in them, and you have a decent chance of getting a decent tank for this 15,000 gold. This bundle is also not worth it because you can get more gold for this price. For example, the Piranha, the Shark, the Piranha, the T95E6 is a great bundle for $35. You have a really good tank over here for the equivalent of around 25,000 gold. That's a decent bundle, I'd say. Another decent bundle is the double impact. For the T54-2 and the T77, these are both the best tier 8s in the game at the moment, in my opinion, at least for 17,500. Very good bundle. And that's where the good bundles end, in my opinion, at least. As for the tanks, there's not really anything worth to blow your money on right now. So, yeah, that's about it for the store. And let's go back to our thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and this little section off the end, maybe consider checking out my other content, maybe my other videos on Blitz or on other stuff. I don't really do anything except Blitz on my channel, but again, I hope you learned something, be it a new player or a really experienced one. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Bye bye.